comeback is not just about releasing new material, it is about returning with something that resonates, something that acknowledges the artist's growth since their last outing. For Jungkook, a comeback in this context would be tied to a narrative, not just of returning to the stage, but of returning stronger, more experimental, and more ambitious. His earlier solo songs showcased range and charisma, but fans and critics alike know that his potential is far greater. A US-shot music video suggests not just a comeback, but a recalibration, one where production, location, and storytelling align to craft something monumental. Layered on top of this is the early talk of a 2026 tour. Touring is the ultimate test for any musician. Albums can succeed or fail. Singles can rise and fall. But the stage is where artists prove their lasting influence. For Jungkook, a tour in 2026 would be more than a string of concerts. It would be a marker of independence, a declaration of his ability to draw crowds under his own name. While BTS tours were record-breaking, a solo tour would redefine the scope of his artistry. Could he fill stadiums by himself? Could he design shows that carry his unique brand of performance distinct from BTS's legendary productions? These questions are not just speculation. They are the kinds of challenges that fuel anticipation and heighten his narrative. What makes this potential moment even more compelling is how it reflects Jungkook's trajectory as an artist. Unlike many idols who struggle to transition from group success to solo recognition, Jungkook has consistently broken through. His digital releases, collaborations with international producers, and involvement with global brands have all pointed toward a deliberate effort to create longevity in his career. Shooting a music video in the US aligns perfectly with that trajectory, showing not just ambition, but also strategy. The emotional dimension cannot be ignored. For fans who have followed Jungkook since his teenage debut, the idea of him preparing for a comeback and tour carries a deep sense of growth. They have witnessed his transformation from the shy, golden maknae to a confident performer who commands arenas. A new music video in the US is not just an industry update, it is a symbolic crossing of thresholds. It suggests that the boy who once looked up to global artists is now standing beside them, ready to set his own stage. Behind this excitement, there is also the weight of expectation. A comeback, especially one paired with a global tour, raises questions of scale. Will Jungkook pursue a pop-heavy sound designed for US radio play, or will he lean into more experimental genres to establish artistic credibility? Will his music videos embrace storytelling in the cinematic tradition, or will they highlight choreography and performance in the style that K-pop perfected? Each decision becomes a balancing act between commercial success and artistic vision. This duality is at the heart of his next move, and it is why speculation feels so charged. Looking at the broader industry context, Jungkook's reported plans reflect a global music landscape that has shifted dramatically over the past decade. No longer is the US market the sole measure of success, but it still remains a powerful one. By choosing to film there, Jungkook is signaling that his career is not confined to domestic acclaim or even to Pan-Asian recognition. He is positioning himself as a global competitor. For music executives, this is more than symbolic. It suggests a strategy that could open doors to award shows, international collaborations, and a cementing of his solo identity. To better understand this possible trajectory, one can look back at Jungkook's earlier career moves. His performance at global stages, such as the FIFA World Cup opening ceremony, already proved his capability to stand alone on massive platforms. His collaborations with Western artists and producers showed a willingness to experiment outside of the K-pop mold. His endorsements with brands like Calvin Klein signaled his crossover appeal, not just as a singer but as a cultural icon. Each of these moves can now be read as stepping stones toward this moment. A US-based production, a comeback narrative, and a tour plan that reaches across continents. The word comeback in K-pop culture carries an energy that goes far beyond its literal meaning. In the West, artists release albums or singles with less ceremony, but in South Korea, a comeback is treated almost like a rebirth. It's a recalibration of identity, sound, and direction. For Jungkook, a comeback at this stage of his career, possibly tied to a US-based music video shoot, is loaded with layers of meaning. It is not simply about returning with new music. It is about defining what his future as a soloist will look like, while also signaling how he plans to balance individuality with his legacy as a member of BTS. The conversations surrounding his comeback already point to a series of strategic considerations. One of the most pressing questions is sound. Jungkook's earlier releases leaned heavily into international pop, blending R&B, electronic beats, and smooth vocals with accessible production. Songs like Seven and Standing Next to You showed his ability to bridge Western radio sensibilities with the polish of K-pop. For a new comeback, he faces a choice. Should he continue down that path, refining his place in global pop? Or should he take a riskier route, exploring genres that highlight his artistry more than his commercial potential? Filming a music video in the US suggests that the comeback will lean toward global appeal. American video production offers scale, cinematic backdrops, and narrative techniques that resonate worldwide. If Jungkook chooses to shoot in cities like Los Angeles or New York, the settings themselves would act as visual cues of global belonging. On the other hand, if he selects less conventional American locations, deserts, industrial towns, coastal cliffs, the choice could represent an artistic push to tell a story beyond glamour. Either way, the visuals will matter just as much as the music, because in today's pop culture, image and sound are inseparable. Another key aspect of the comeback is collaboration. Jungkook has already proven his ability to work with Western producers and songwriters, and speculation about his next steps has naturally included the possibility of new partnerships. Names like Charlie Puth, Andrew Watt, or even The Weeknd's collaborators have been floated by fans online. Collaborations are not just about blending voices, they are about merging audiences. A duet with an established US artist would immediately strengthen Jungkook's reach in the American market while reinforcing his status as an international star. Yet there is also a strong argument for him to stand alone, to let his voice and performance define the era without the distraction of a big-name feature. The tension between collaboration and independence will shape the way the comeback is received. Emotionally, the comeback carries weight for fans who have been waiting. Since BTS members began fulfilling military obligations, group activities have slowed, creating space for individual projects. For armies, Jungkook's return with new material is not just exciting, it is reassuring. It shows that despite pauses in BTS's group activity, the members are continuing to thrive, building legacies that will eventually strengthen the group's collective narrative. Fans often speak about feeling a sense of pride watching Jungkook's growth. A comeback now, supported by a US music video and potential tour, is both a reward for their patience and a promise of what's still to come. One cannot overlook the competitive context of this comeback either. The global music market in 2026 will be crowded with returning superstars, emerging TikTok-driven acts, and new waves of genre experimentation. For Jungkook to make a statement, his comeback needs to do more than deliver a catchy hook. It needs to capture the imagination of listeners worldwide. That requires not just strong music, but a campaign. Teasers, visuals, performances, interviews, and social presence that align into one coherent story. BTS, as a group, excelled at crafting these narratives, and Jungkook will be expected to replicate that magic on his own terms. Touring ties directly into this. A comeback without live performance is incomplete. The mere hint of a 2026 tour suggests that his team is thinking several steps ahead, designing not just music, but an entire stage experience. Jungkook is known for his meticulous attention to detail in performances, from vocal delivery to choreography to set design. A tour would allow him to shape a world around his music, to bring fans into an environment that reflects his personal artistry. Unlike BTS's tours, which required balancing 7 members' styles, a solo tour would give Jungkook complete control over mood, pacing, and narrative. This freedom could result in something deeply personal, a show that feels like stepping inside his artistic mind. The commercial implications are massive. A successful solo tour in 2026 would prove his ability to carry global audiences independently. It would also establish a model for other BTS members, showing that solo tours can coexist with group activities without diluting the brand. For labels, promoters, and global partners, this is more than a concert. It is a business case study in how K-pop idols transition to solo global stardom. At the same time, the risks are real. A comeback raises expectations, and expectations can be unforgiving. If the music fails to connect, or if the visuals feel underwhelming, critics will be quick to frame it as a stumble. Similarly, a solo tour that fails to sell out venues at the scale expected could be seen as a blow to his image of unstoppable momentum. These risks, however, are precisely what make the narrative compelling. Great artistry often emerges from the pressure of high stakes. It is also important to consider the emotional narrative from Jungkook's perspective. He has spoken in the past about the weight of expectations and the pressure he feels as the youngest BTS member. A comeback and tour could be seen not just as career moves, but as personal milestones, a way for him to prove to himself that he can hold the world's attention on his own. For fans, this adds an extra layer of meaning. Watching him succeed becomes not just entertainment, but a shared emotional journey, one where their support directly fuels his confidence. Ultimately, this comeback feels less like an isolated project and more like the foundation for an era. The US music video signals scale, the comeback itself represents growth, and the tour represents ambition. Each element builds upon the other, creating a narrative arc that is designed to capture not just headlines, but heart. Whether Jungkook chooses to lean into pop accessibility, experimental artistry, or a blend of both, the world will be watching closely.